It's time now for business. Let's say hello to Kate Moody.
Hi, Francois.
It's the first working day of the return of those U.S.-imposed sanctions on Iran. We're going to be talking about it later in the France 24 debate. 8 countries on a list of those exempted, the happy few, from trading with Iran when it comes to oil.
Exactly. And a few surprises on that list, really. Those 8 countries being granted 6-month exemptions or waivers. They can continue importing a certain amount of crude from Tehran without being punished. Now, they include Iran's top 5 oil customers. That is China, India, South Korea, Turkey, and Italy, as well as Greece, which comes in at number 10. We don't know how much they'll be actually allowed to buy without facing sanctions, but in theory, Washington is asking them to reduce their imports steadily and eventually phase them out altogether within the next 6 months or so, all without too much of a shock to the global oil market. Now, international opposition to the U.S. sanctions and an ongoing effort in Europe to get around them mean that Iran's oil industry is likely to continue selling, although not at its full capacity. Exports have already dropped by about 900,000 barrels per day, oil prices rising slightly this Monday. Now, Tehran has vowed to break the American measures, and some industries are standing firm as well. Tech startups have been flourishing, and entrepreneurs in Tehran say they're not backing down to U.S. pressure. France 24 correspondent Reza Sayah has sent this report from Tehran.
Please welcome foreigners.
Entrepreneur Navid Aghdam has 4 minutes to go on stage and convince 5 judges that his business venture is Iran's next best high-tech startup.
Hello, everyone.
With no time to waste,
all of you have enjoyed Iranian watermelon taste.
Aghdam uses a watermelon to help prove his point.
Thank God it worked. The judges even suggested that I give them the watermelon, but I said no.
Please give a round of applause.
Aghdam is among dozens of entrepreneurs taking part in Silk Road Startup, a nationwide competition to choose Iran's next best startup company. Aghdam's startup is Corridors, an online service that makes it easier and cheaper for merchants to ship goods via Iran's railway system. The startup competition comes amid new U.S. sanctions that cut off the foreign investment Iran's economy was hoping for when it signed the nuclear deal with world powers in 2015.
We just have to find a new way to fight back,
Hamed Jafari and Mohammad Reza Azali are 2 of the co-founders of Silk Road Startup. They say their competition shows Iran's highly educated and ambitious high-tech scene is still an attractive market that's not backing down to U.S. sanctions.
I mean, it's a gold mine. It's the last untapped emerging market.
Other countries can see the potential. If the European Union or Russia or China, we can make a deal with them. It's a U.S. loss.
The future of Iran's high-tech scene could feature Aghdam's Corridors. His startup came in first place, after which he credited his team and his watermelon.
Reza Sayah reporting there. Let's check in on the day's trading action now. We saw the major European indices mostly down as those Iran sanctions take effect. The banking sector was under pressure across the board. Italian banks lost nearly 2% on Monday after European stress tests highlighted some concerns about capital instability. All 48 European lenders did, however, pass scrutiny. Wall Street's mixed today ahead of those crucial midterm elections in the U.S. The Nasdaq down over 1% there as Apple and Amazon weigh on trade. Their shares are down more than 3% each. The VIX Volatility Index, meanwhile, up sharply as investors brace for more uncertainty ahead. The Japanese tech group Softbank has defended its continuing partnership with Saudi Arabia despite the international outcry over the murder of a Saudi journalist. The firm's chief executive broke his silence on the incident, describing Jamal Khashoggi's death as horrific and regrettable. But he said Softbank was not backing away from its $100 billion Vision Fund, an investment program largely financed by Riyadh, even though shares have plummeted over 20% in the last month.
We received the money from Saudi Arabia and invested it before this incident happened. We cannot suddenly turn our backs on that responsibility. For what we have received already, this investment, we have to fulfill our responsibility.
Eurozone finance ministers have urged Italy's coalition government to respond to calls for change on its controversial budget proposal. The 2019 spending plans, which were rejected by the European Commission last month, would increase government's debt, spending and budget deficit in what the government describes as an effort to lift Italians out of poverty after years of EU-imposed austerity. It's raised some concerns about the stability of the single currency bloc, although European officials have tried to downplay those concerns as they wait for Rome to submit a revised budget plan in the next 2 weeks.
Versus Italy makes no sense. The Commission is there to make sure that the rules of the Eurozone are respected, because when one member does not respect the rules, it has an impact on the others.
Now, Italy has until November 13th to submit that new budget plan. The EU Commission then has another week to rule on the budget.
I feel like it's a soap opera that's going to gestate, shall we say.
A European soap opera of the best kind.
All right, many thanks for that. Kate Moody with more business news later.